Good afternoon. My name is Jesus Soriano. I am a program director in the Partnerships for Innovation program here at the Division of Industrial Innovation and Partnerships at the NSF. I am joined by my colleagues, Dr. Katie Bratlie. Katie has a dual appointment in the PFI program and also in the Small Business Innovation Research, SBIR, STTR program at NSF, and Dr. Crystal Leach, who has also a dual appointment of PFI and in the Industry University Collaborative Research Centers program, IUCRC. Today, we will present you a couple of slides, and then we will start the Q&A session. Because of how we set up the Zoom session today, in order to ask questions, you will not be able to ask them live. We are asking you to send them through the chat. Our colleague Crystal will read them, and then Katie and I will alternate providing responses. Please bear with us if there's any glitch. We do our best. With that said, let me present a couple of slides that may be useful to you. Just to remind you first that the Partnerships for Innovation program is a program within a family of options that the NSF offers to innovators and entrepreneurs through the Division of Industrial Innovation and Partnerships. We will not go into detail through those descriptions, but we encourage you to become familiar with them, because it is possible that although you're interested in PFI, other programs that we have for you, like GOLI, Intern, IUCRC, Icor, or SBIR, may be more appropriate for you, or you could also apply for sure to maybe IUCRC or Icor or SBIR while you apply to PFI, although PFI, by definition, is a pre-SBIR program. But we will let you do that homework. The objective today is to answer as many questions as you have. If you have, if you're attending today, it's because you visited our website, nsf.gov/PFI. You have lots of resources there that we strongly encourage you to visit, read, become familiar with if you want to submit a truly competitive proposal. So starting with the solicitation, NSF 19-506, that is basically what other agencies may call RFP. You need to become very familiar. There are lots of details in that document, and so your proposal will be responsive to it. It is okay if you ask questions today and you haven't read that document. We're here to help you, but please read the document. In addition to that, there's a companion document, frequently asked questions, in the resources page of our website. There are many questions there, like more than 60. All those questions have been asked at least once, and I can foresee or forecast that the questions you will ask today have been answered there as well. So please, for your own sake, read both the solicitation and the FAQs. Obviously, you can contact us at any time. You can use our personal email, our professional email addresses, but we encourage you to use the generic program email address, pfi@nsf.gov, because all program directors have access to it and your answer will be faster. We encourage you to submit your proposals through research.gov rather than Fastlane. NSF is making great progress modernizing our systems. PFI is one of the first programs that started encouraging folks to submit to research.gov. We understand that some of you are long-time NSF principal investigators. You may be more familiar with Fastlane. It is okay, but we will continue to encourage you to use research.gov. In that website, research.gov, you have a section, Prepare and Submit Proposals, where you will find a video on how to initiate a proposal. Another thing that is maybe different between PFI versus another programs, so versus other programs at NSF, is that under this current solicitation, we are not accepting collaborative proposals. That may sound a bit counterintuitive because PFI is all about partnerships. So if two institutions want to collaborate, let's say two universities want to collaborate in a project, what we ask is not that you send simultaneous proposals for a joint project, that is a collaborative proposal. We ask that one of the institutions submit a proposal, and if funds are requested for the partner institution, that a sub-award with a budget and budget justification be included in the proposal budget. Which means that if you have a multi-organizational team, you should only submit one proposal with sub-awards for each of the partners that is requesting funding. You can ask questions about this issue if you feel uncomfortable in a few minutes. Finally, just to remind you that Partnerships for Innovation is a program that has been around since 2002 at least. In 2011 and then again in 2017, we received mandates from Congress, most recently under something called the American Innovation and Competitiveness Act of 2017. So we are responding to a congressional mandate, and that mandate, it's there. I will not read it, it's on the slide. You will have access to the slides, we will be sending them to you. And you can also have a recorded webinar. It was recorded 3 years ago, but it's still current because it's for the same solicitation. It's on our website. Just in a nutshell, you can apply for one or of two types of grants. You have the PFI Technology Translation or TP grants for $250,000, 18 to 24 months. Applied research work towards commercialization, proof of concept demonstrations, demonstration of commercial potential, early stage prototyping, etc. PFI RP grants have the same objective, exactly the same objectives, but they are for $500,000 over 36 months. Although they have the same objectives, in order to apply or qualify for an RP grant, you must have an industrial partner. In the PFITT grant, you are not required, you're only encouraged to have an industry partner. So we ask that you ask many questions about this issue because we see in the proposals that sometimes partnership is not clear. People are asking for RPs just because there is more money, but there's no case for it. And we've seen the opposite. Folks with strong partnerships, they go for PFITT thinking that if they ask less money, their chances will be higher. So ask lots of questions about that. And I believe that is all. I guess remind you that contrary to many academic programs at NSF, we have a clear focus on the future commercialization of intellectual property derived from previous NSF-funded research. So the issue of NSF lineage is critical. And today, again, you should be asking lots of questions about what does NSF lineage mean. We want the NSF-funded research license either to corporations or to startups that you may create thanks to the work that you will be doing with a PFI grant. We want you to collaborate with industry. We want you to train the future generation of innovators and entrepreneurs. Those will be your students and postdocs. And for sure, we are absolutely focused on increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion by increasing the participation of women, minorities, persons with disabilities, and any other underrepresented or under-participatory group in innovation and entrepreneurship. That, by the way, is not a fashionable statement, it's also in response to the congressional mandate. With that, I believe we are ready to start taking questions. So we're going to be experiencing. Crystal, we are on your hands.
Yeah, we've got several for you, Jesus, so I'll start. There's a question about resubmitting a PFI proposal. Can they resubmit if they've been declined, if they've done a major revision, and what are there any specific guidance for PIs who want to resubmit?
Katie, would you like to take that one? And I'll go
Sure,
after you.
I can start with that one. So yes, you can do a resubmission. What we Jesus and myself would say is we encourage you to contact whichever one of us was the program director when you previously submitted for a debrief call to go over what it is that you could do to strengthen the proposal on the next submission. And our next submission is going to be July 14th. So you would be eligible to apply for that cycle. But yes, you are eligible to apply. You do need to make major revisions to the proposal. And I recommend that you contact us for a debrief call if you haven't already.
Thank you. The next question is it okay to submit a PFI in the same period that you're applying for SBIR?
I'll take that one. I guess for practical reasons, yes, you can do it. But let me give you a few pieces of advice. First, do not submit the same proposal because it's possible your project is very interesting, but it is illegal to receive duplicative funding from the same project. So let's assume that both our colleagues in the SBIR program and us would like to fund your project. Well, it would be a pity we would ask you to withdraw one. So, and by the way, if you submit a duplicative funding, you accept it and you haven't disclosed it, you are in big trouble, big legal trouble. Starting the minimum that could happen to you is being debarred from NSF and worse things. So please don't do that. What you can do and you must do is explain to us, especially in the section 4 of the project description, your strategy for commercialization, that you may already have a SBIR company or a CTR company that you are applying and how both things work together, right? So disclose in the SBIR grant that you're applying for a PFI, disclose in PFI that you are applying for SBIR, and do not cut corners. Be strategic. Consider 2 different proposals that will lead you at the end of the tunnel to a product. If you have little experience in this, I then encourage you to submit first with PFI. PFI is the sweet spot for academic teams who have NSF-funded research, have tried a couple of times in SBIR, it doesn't work for them, they come to PFI, we get you ready, not only with money, but with training, so then you can succeed. Thank you.
Can you talk more about societal impact and what are you looking for when you're talking about societal impact?
So societal impact goes into why is this technology important for the market? So what is this really going to do to improve the general NSF mission for the country? So how are you going to improve national health? How are you going to improve the quality of life of Americans? So that's what we're going after with the societal benefits of your technology. So, and hopefully I answered that question, but very good question.
Great. What is the difference between PFI RP and GOAL?
Okay, that question requires a PhD, which I have no time to write. But GOALI is a separate program. It was created, it's older than PFI. It was created 40 years ago. PFI is younger than that, only 20 years ago. GOALI, the difference, I guess, between GOALI and PFI is that GOALI is an NSF-wide program that can be awarded both as a standalone grant or as a supplement by anyone, any program director at NSF. And it is for supporting collaborations between industry and university. But those collaborations don't need necessarily to lead towards commercialization, particularly if it's funded by an academic program at NSF. In the case of IIP, our division, Industrial Innovation Partnerships, we do not practice GOALI as a standalone program. Actually, those funds are normally used to support the intern supplement. We provide supplements. Actually, PFI provides supplements to our grantees through GOALI supplements. And most importantly, in our division, if you ask for GOALI, it will be really to support a collaboration with industry that is really supporting your technology commercialization efforts. Okay, so in many cases, a PFI TT or PFI RP will, once you have received that money, if you're doing a good job, etc., then we may give you, if you ask for it, a goalie supplement. The PFRP is a whole, I'm not going to address it because hopefully by the end of the panel today, the summary of the webinar, forgive me, you will better understand it.
Does participation in Icor count as NSF lineage?
So that's a good question. So participation in Icor, the National Teams Program. So there's a variety of different Icors that are out there, but specifically the NSF Icor Teams does count as lineage. And so what you can see on this slide is the lineage requirement for PFI. And so both of the tracks, the TT and the RP, they both have to have a lineage met from NSF to be eligible to apply for the grant. And so you can get that one of two ways. You can get it with the NSF Icor Teams Award, which is just what the question was about. That would need to be awarded within the past 4 years. Or you can get it from an NSF Research Award, and that would be either current or was completed within the past 7 years. And either of those two are going to satisfy the lineage requirement. The Icor, if you had an Icor from a site or a node, those don't satisfy the lineage requirement. Just the Icor Teams Awards are going to satisfy that requirement.
I would like to add a little bit to Katie's comment. If you come from an Icor site or node, yeah, you do not qualify for PFI yet, but you need to know that Icor teams themselves, they accept teams that come from the sites and the nodes. So it is your faster way to get then apply to Icor teams, do that training, and then you will qualify for PFI. So it's not that the door is open to you, it's just that it's a bit further. You need to then apply to Icor teams, get those $50,000, do the training, and then apply to PFI.
Can you have two industry partners? And if so, do both have to have a track record of bringing products and services to market?
Yes, you can have two different, oh, sorry, I think that
No, please, go ahead.
Okay.
No, Katie, please.
So yeah, you can have two industry partners. We do have multiple industry partners for our current awardees and applicants quite commonly. And this is particularly common if you have one industry partner who has a lot of commercialization expertise and your other industry partner is your startup. They do not both need to have a record of commercial revenue, but one of them must have a record of commercial revenue if you're applying for the RP track. With the TT track, the industrial partner is not required. So if you're partnering with a small business, it's not required that you have a track record of commercial revenue for the TT. But if you're applying for the RP, then you do need to have an industrial partner that has a track record of commercialization. And then one thing that I will point out here, since Jesus is giving me the slide prompt, is that this is not meant to be a this is not meant to be to supplant the SBIR program. Small businesses that are interested in getting grants from NSF are strongly encouraged to go to the SBIR as TTR program. And in order to get a sub-award, which is allowed from the PFI grants, you would need to be a small business. And the sub-awards, the maximum, the funding for the TTs and the RPs is pretty low, so there's not going to be a very large sub-award that's going to be available for the SBIR or STTR for the small business. So what we do is we recommend that companies that are interested in commercializing their own technology, that they apply for the SBIR program.
We're going to give you a bit of candid advice here because we don't want you to submit proposals and then get them declined on this issue. First, if you're an academic professor and you have already an SBIR company and you're having a hard time submitting or obtaining SBIR funding, well, you're welcome to come to PFI, but please do not move those funds then to SBIR. Some folks are trying to use PFI funds to then sub-award their own companies. That is not kosher, that's not acceptable, and we're very good at capturing that. Second, if your own company is industrial partner or a company that you control or you have a say in their management decisions. That's called affiliation. We will not accept that as an industrial partner in RP. In DT is different because what it shows is that you are committed to commercialization. But in the RP, you cannot bring a company that is basically yours because you cannot endorse yourself. The role of industrial partner is A, to collaborate with you, and B, provide you with a third-party market validation of the value proposition of your technology. Okay, so as Katie said, don't use this to flash money towards a small business. B, do not use as a industrial partner a company that you own or control. The third thing, and forgive me, Katie, I'm invading on your space here, but some folks, when we are allowing small businesses eligible to Sbir CTR to not only serve as industrial partners, but receive sub-awards, some folks are just coming with a startup, whether they own it or not. If I can show you the previous slide, we're asking for companies that have an established record of commercial revenue. And that money comes from sales or licensing of products and services. And it doesn't come from grants and government contracts, which is what mostly a startup with SBIR funds may have. So we are looking for that stability, that ability to then bring products to the market. So do not mix both things, okay? That's why when the question to Crystal was, can you bring two partners? The answer would be yes. You could come with your startup or a startup, but then bring any, I would say, self-sufficient, established industrial partner. Thank you.
Jesus, there's a question that was similar to that, and I just want to make sure we answer it. The question was, somebody said they'd already submitted an STTR proposal to NIH. After doing Icor, they got declined because it said the technology was premature. So, but they've already formed a company. Specifically, the question is it going to hurt them if they've already formed a company for PFI TT?
It doesn't. Actually, something beautiful has happened over the last 3 years. We used to be less stringent on commercialization, entrepreneur education, Icor training, etc. And 3 years ago, we really increased the pressure. And there has been now a generational change in the community that applies to PFI. Before, it should be folks who just want to do applied research, and there's nothing wrong with it. For 20 years, we funded amazing projects. But now we're telling people we are obsessed on helping you move the technology from the lab to the market without you needing to create a company, et cetera, et cetera. So the number of teams, your competitors, if you want, who are coming already with their startup company is increasing. In an informal assessment I ran, I saw recently at least 35% creation of startups in the program. That is amazing. The number of startups created thanks to PFI is increasing, and the success rate of those PFI-enabled companies in SBIR is increasing too. So it is okay that you have already a company. There's no problem. On the contrary, we just want to make sure that you are asking for work that is performed at the university and not at the company.
Got it. There's a question about what extent does the commercialization plan need to be developed? What are some typical things that need to be included?
So the commercialization plan, it's not going to be as developed as an SBIR or STTR proposal, but what we are asking for, and you can find more details about this in the solicitation about the specific sections and some more details than just what's on the slide here. But the commercialization, we want to know how you're going to benefit society through this technology. So there should be some sort of something that society is going to get for putting taxes into this program. So you definitely want to be including that. You should have a strategy and plans beyond PFI. So our interest is to get technology from academic labs into the marketplace. And so that's going to require a significant amount of money beyond just PFI. 250,000 or 550,000 is not going to get you very far in commercialization. So we want to see what you're going to do beyond this. So are you going to go for non-dilutive funds like SBIR funding from different government agencies? What are your plans beyond that in terms of raising capital for your company? And then what are the benchmarks that you're going to need to meet for your technology? We want to see a strategic planning that would ensure that there's going to be sustainability of the commercialization efforts. So there's going to need to be money coming into this project after the PFI project ends. Again, we're going after commercialization. And if you have a company, you have to pay your employees or they won't stick around for a very long time. So we want to see some sustainability here. And we also want to see that you're identifying and securing strategic commercialization partners, investors, licensees, and the creation and funding of spin-out companies. So there's a lot of different ways that you can commercialize your technology. You could create a startup company. You could partner with your industrial partner on this grant or with a different partner, and you could license that technology. So we want to see what it is that you are planning on doing. And the answers to all of these, there's no right or wrong answer to any of these questions. It really depends on what's best for your team and your technology. And then finally, we want to see an actual assessment plan of your partnership and the collaboration. So this should really be some thoughtful go, no-go decisions that you are going to be making in terms of getting this technology to the market. And if you are running into issues, how it is that you're going to mitigate these problems in terms of your partnership and the collaboration performance on this project.
I'm going to be the devil's advocate, forgive me, Crystal, and give you an advice. When we look at this little paragraph, achieving societal impact through commercial potential, that's where you are going to speak about commercialization. But true PFI proposals are more like a narrative, like a carpet, like weaving. So don't fill up the rest of the proposal with just science. And then leave the commercial strategy just for this one. We want to see how a commercial hypothesis informs a technical work. That is basically inspire research towards commercialization. That's one thing. The second thing is we are going to read every word in that section, and we're going to compare it to the rest of the sections in your proposal, and let's see if it makes sense. If you are submitting a proposal with a partner, we will read whether that section incorporates a partner, and what the partner says in the letter of commitment and support, which, by the way, you should be asking about, and what your commercial strategy or commercialization plan says. And we're going to compare it, and we're going to ask ourselves, what are these guys about and these girls? What are they trying to do? You need to know that we are just not reading proposals. We are really trying to understand what you're trying to do, and to visualize your project as a real thing. So focus on writing something that is true and real, and focus less on trying to write something that sounds good. Thank you.
Well, kind of operational questions. How long does it typically take to hear back? And I think related to that, then what's a reasonable project start date? Is 1/1/2022 a reasonable start date?
I guess I can do it. Sorry, Katie, I'm breaking the rhythm here. We strive to get them review in 4 months and inform a result in 5 months. But since the onset of the COVID pandemic, we are receiving lots of proposals, and sometimes it may take 6 months or a bit more. But we normally by month 3rd, we are running the panels. By month 4th, we have an idea more or less of who's going to get funded or not. If you're going to get funded, or we believe you could be funded, we will engage with you on due diligence. If you don't hear from us at all, maybe there's more probability you're not going to get funded. Just be patient. The date will be set by on the day where you receive the letter of award. That's the starting date. So you should count like 6 months from date of submission.
A couple questions about students. First, if a student just graduated a graduate program and is in the transition period of weighing their options between industry and academia, can they still be an entrepreneurial lead or research partner associated with the PFI award?
So the student would not be able to be a research partner. So a research partner would be another academic partner that you would be partnering with. So it would be another PI's lab that you would be partnering with. The student can be involved in the program. So if the student has just graduated, then they could be hired as a postdoc. And that leads me to one of the requirements for the proposal, which is you need to have either 100% of a graduate student paid off of the proposal or 50% of a postdoc on the PFI project. So the student who's just graduated, they could satisfy that position as a postdoc on the project. And they could serve on this project, and then they could also participate in Icor if you haven't already gone through that training. So yes, they could participate.
What is the difference between a collaboration letter and a partner letter?
Go ahead.
Okay. It's the same. Collaborator and partner is the same. Basically, we want two things, and this gets a bit complicated. So please pay attention and ask again. First, you need to put at least one letter of support and not more than 3. Letter of support comes from potential partners, customers, etc., that are not included in the project, but in the future they may want to buy your technology, invest in your company, etc. So it's a letter of support. Then you have letters of commitment or collaboration, and those are from anybody who is involved in the project, okay? The most important letter of collaboration or partner, as you want to call it, is from the industrial partner. It's critical that that letter stands out from the other letters of support, okay? That letter basically vouches for your project if you are coming with an industrial partner, and it has to very clearly explain A, who they are, B, who you are and why what you're doing is important, and C, why what you're trying to do is critical to society and has commercial potential, and most importantly, D, how will you collaborate? I could also add that the perfect letter of collaboration contains a sentence that says that they agree to enter into a collaborative research agreement if this proposal is awarded or as a condition for award. So I don't know if you are sending questions about collaborative research agreement to Crystal. Start doing it now because it's a very important issue. Okay, so letters of commitment from those who participate in the project. It could be a consultant, it could be another research institution. The most important one comes from industrial partner. Now, something that is confusing is that in the NSF general guidelines called PAPPG, a letter of commitment is just a single paragraph that says, I'll do whatever is explained in the proposal. Those letters are not good to us. Our solicitation is an exception. We want a very long letter that really vouches for your merits, okay? If you have not been clear, please ask that question again. Thank you.
So several questions about Icor. First of all, they've just completed the Icor program, but they noticed that in the slides that you gave and in other slides they've seen, PFI comes before Icor. Does that mean they did it backwards? Are you supposed to do PFI before Icor?
No, you don't need to do PFI before Icor. In fact, I have a number of awards that I'm making right now that did Icor first, and that's how they got their lineage. Traditionally, that's what the what the thought process has been is that you do PFI and then do Icor after this, or rather you do Icor as part of PFI, but you don't need to worry about the order of PFI and Icor. You can do Icor before PFI, or you can do Icor as part of PFI. So the lineage requirement here, because we get a lot of questions about it, either NSF funded research within 7 years, or an NSF Icor Teams Award, and there's some motorcycle going by if there's a lot of background noise, or an Icor Teams Award within the last 4 years. If you haven't done Icor, you can apply for PFI. We will require that you take part in Icor during your PFI award. And it's a really good opportunity for you because you can really do a deep dive in customer discovery. And some of our teams have found out that their original technology, there's not enough of a market to support it. And that's a great finding to figure out before you've started a company. And so they don't just abandon the technology at that point. They're able to pivot into a new direction that will be supported by the market. And so now they're able to go in these other directions and found a company that will have a much greater chance of success based on these awards. So in short, you do not need to have Icor before you apply for PFI. It will serve as lineage if you do have it. And if you don't have it, you will be taking part in Icor during your PFI award.
And so 2 follow-ups to that. So if you have already taken it, is there still a need to budget? They don't need to budget that $50K, right?
That's right. Yeah. And so I'll just add in one little short thing about this because we get a lot of questions about this too. For Icor, the budgeting is a little bit strange because there is a different overhead rate. So you put $45,000 into line G6, and then the overhead is limited to $5,000 on that. So it's a $50,000 total, which is very important because if you use your institutional overhead rate, it's going to be something like $75,000 at least.
And so then I think the question that you may have answered, but it said, what budget categories? So that you gave the line, that's the budget category.
Yeah,
right?
It's G6, it's other. And so that's another important thing. It's a good idea to try to get the budget as close as you possibly can, but doing something like putting Icor in the wrong line on your budget isn't going to be something that's going to disqualify you from being able to receive the award. We will go back to you if your proposal has been deemed meritorious and have you correct these issues. But it is important to try to get the budget correct because that gives you an idea as to how much of a grad student and materials and supplies you can afford, which will inform you how much technical work you can do on the project.
And so if somebody is an industry entrepreneur and they've got an Icor graduate prototype, do they need to designate their university partner at the outset? So I guess the question is that, yeah.
So what has happened, there are two realities that lead to the question you're asking. One is that we and other agencies, but NSF is giving Icor Teams training to Sbir companies, okay? And that's how some folks get the eligibility for PFI because SBIR doesn't convey the lineage that we required. But the other thing is that this is a program for academic and nonprofit institutions. I'm showing here the list of eligible institutions. You should ask questions about this. So if you're a company, it's not that you don't use PFI to get more money. You may partner with an academic institution because the academic institution has technology that you need, but the bulk of the work is done at the academic or not-for-profit institution, okay? PFI projects that are led by a company, they read like either a contracting deal or like sponsor research deal or like an SBIR, and normally don't get funded. The center of gravity of a PFI project is either in the academic institution or the public not-for-profit institution because we are trying to get that output of research towards the marketplace, not the opposite. I hope that was clear. If not, ask again.
It is. So is just another Icor question. Is there an ideal time after participating in Icor that you would recommend applying for PFI?
Oh, I think that that's going to be a question that would depend on where you are in terms of developing the technology. So you'd want to submit the PFI proposal within 4 years of completing Icor, because otherwise you're going to have to, it won't count for Lineage, and you would have to repeat the Icor program. But really, you want to submit a proposal for this program when you feel that you're ready, when you feel that you are able to give cogent responses for all of the different sections in the proposal. And usually that is your ability to answer particularly the commercialization questions improves quite a bit after your participation in Icor. So any time within that 4 years after participating in Icor, I would be a good time to apply. I would tend to think that maybe within the first year would probably be better, since your findings would be more fresh in your memory. But I don't know that there is necessarily a good time to apply.
I would like only to add one sentence to Katie, is that we are going to look at the intellectual property situation of your project. And we're going to ask in one of the sections in the proposal that you talk about it, and also about your strategy to defend yourself, and what is the landscape, who has intellectual property in the area, etc. The longer you wait to apply for PFI, the older your intellectual property becomes. You see, the intellectual property law has changed. It's just not about who files, who invented earlier. It's about who filed earlier. So there's a pressure to file early. Then there are 20 years of market exclusivity if your patent is allowed. Normally it comes from the time you filed a patent, not from the time you invented the technology. The older your results are, the shorter your patent life is, so the commercial value of your technology will be shorter. This is very important. So don't wait. Don't be scared of submitting a proposal that is half-baked. We will not judge you. We are going to give you great feedback, and that feedback will use you to improve. So don't worry if your proposal is not very well written. I mean, if it's really not well written, it's not going to get funded, but at least you're going to get feedback. But don't wait until you think everything is perfect.
What fraction of the PFI RP budget typically goes to the industry partner?
Jesus is telling you 0. So it really depends on the type of project and what this project calls for. We are expecting that the majority of the funds are going to be spent at the academic submitting institution.
Which I think goes to some of the questions I'm continuing to see about a startup being that academic partner, right? That's really not what we're looking for. We're not looking to fund the startup through.
Yeah, that's actually a good question, Crystal, about who it is who's eligible to apply for these programs, which I don't think that we've gone over yet. So the submitting, and this is really important because we do get a lot of small businesses that are interested in applying for this. Eligible organizations to submit, most of the institutions that we get are academic or research institutions, and this can be community college or 2-year programs, 4-year programs, all the way up to R1s. Any academic research institution is eligible to apply. In addition to that, you are eligible to apply if you're a public or nonprofit, non-academic U.S. organization. And so just to give you an example of the type of those, is usually it's national labs that are applying for these, and we do have some of those. And then also nonprofit U.S. organizations that partner with an institution of higher education are eligible. And then if you have 2 or more of these organizations described above, then of course you're eligible to apply, because any one of these institutions is going to be eligible to apply for this. So the organization that's going to apply, it's going to be a research organization applying to this.
And what Katie said is so important, because you may want to participate in PFI, but you don't have the lineage. So take this list and memorize it, because you should partner maybe with somebody who has the lineage, and you come together with a PFI project that is actually maybe more sophisticated than what you had originally conceived. So use this partnership that we encourage, especially if you don't have an SM lineage and you want to partner with somebody who has it.
A specific question about how to apply for funds to support student intern during the PFI award period. Is that part of the PFI award, or would you consider something else?
No, it's not. So a supplement is something that you ask for once you receive the award. We use the intern as a supplement to PFI extremely often. So many of, and we use it to really send the student to the industrial partner. So it's a beautiful thing, because since, you know, the PFI, let's say a TT lasts for 2 years, sometimes there is a no-cost extension, then the student may receive an intern. There's also maybe some money coming from Icor if you haven't done it. All of a sudden, this student, graduate student, can spend quite a bit of time in the project and really move the technology forward, hopefully towards an SBIR company. So you apply for the intern not as part of the proposal, but only if you are awarded. That's called a supplement. There are other amazing supplements, like for REU, undergrads. We just announced our newest baby. It's called APIX, Allowable Patent Expenses. The good news for you, that's why you should be applying immediately to PFI, is that if you get awarded, we will give you $50,000 for patent expenses. And to the best of my knowledge, we are the only program who's doing it. So that's really cool. So first you apply with proposal, get awarded, then apply for intern. If you don't have a graduate student in your project and you have a postdoc, or you are a postdoc, then you would apply for GOLI. We use it kind of interchangeable. Intern, we use it for graduate students, GOLI for postdocs.
Is for PFI TT, is a research partner encouraged or mandatory or maybe discouraged? Is there any view toward that for a PFI TT?
We fund all types of configurations for the TT. You do not have to have a research partner for the TT. You can have a research partner for the TT. I don't think I've ever seen that viewed as a negative from a panel. It really just depends on what the needs are for your specific project. So if there is a collaborator that you have at another institution or at your current institution that makes sense to be a research partner for your project, then you should add that person for your PFI TT proposal.
For a PFI RP, would a 24-month rather than the specified 36-month duration, but at near the maximum budget level, be acceptable?
No, we are very clear about it. It's 36 months. We understand you are in a hurry to spend money, et cetera, and the more money you spend, the faster you might go. But what will happen is you may not start as early as you want, A. B, you may not have a graduate student or a postdoc, and there will be all kinds of delays. So no, if you go for RP, 36 months, no less, no more. If you go for TT, you have more flexibility, 18 months to 24 months. By the way, we are talking about graduate students and postdocs. Under eligible institutions, we show that 2-year institutions, including community colleges, qualify for this program, and we very strongly encourage your participation. If you belong to a 2-year institution that doesn't have a master's program, you don't need to have a master's student or a postdoc. Your students will be just undergrads. You are eligible and you should apply.
There's a couple questions about the review process. Are most of the PFI proposals reviewed by panels or by ad hoc reviewers? And what do you typically look for in the makeup of those panels? Industrial scientists or investors or academic science or academic?
That is a great question. So almost all of the PFI proposals are reviewed by panels. And the panels, what we do is we try to have a mix of academics who are specialists in the technology area. So maybe I should back up just a little bit. PFI, we're technology agnostic. So we'll take any proposal that has been funded by NSF in theory. We don't lump things together that are very different technologies. So for instance, there won't be a sensor proposal on a wastewater treatment panel, unless it was actually sensing something to do with wastewater. So we group them together based on what the technology is. And then the panel makeup, that will be a mixture of academics who have technology expertise in that particular area. And also we bring in industrial folks, and those people can have a variety of backgrounds. They could be more in the R&D, but usually we try to get the industrial folks to have more of a investment background, because that is what you're eventually going to be going up against, is trying to get the investment community to go in to put money into your small business if you end up going the small business route. And those individuals who have the fundraising background, they might not have a deep technical knowledge in particularly in your technology area. And we do that purposefully because that better mimics the actual environment for angels and VCs when you actually get into that small business area. But they will be focused more on the commercialization aspect, and then also on the broader impacts, whether or not they believe that there is a market for this technology that you're proposing.
A quick question on legacies, the 7-year legacy timeline from the expiration date of your NSF research project, or from the beginning of your NSF research project. So if you got funded under an academic program at NSF, what is the date?
So it is the NSF lineage, the research portion of it. If that's how you come here, the project could be current, still ongoing. In that case, if you got the award very, very recently, your challenge is to demonstrate that you have done something with that other NSF award, and whatever you have learned, how does it inform an PFI project? The other, which is your question, is 7 years from the date of expiration of the award. So if you believe that PFI is not for you, the reality is that every year, NSF funds like 12,000 projects. So we are having, there may be at least 100,000 projects at NSF that are eligible for PFI, okay? So is the date when your previous award ended, and those are many years. Again, don't wait because your intellectual property becomes obsolete. And even if your project is a great idea, it may not be commercially viable, okay?
And just to confirm, there are 2 PFI proposal submission deadlines each year, correct?
That is correct. The next one is July 14th, and then the one after that will be in January.
And there was a question about what percentage funding rate for the program?
It changes. It depends how many proposals we have. Historically, it's been higher than 25%, sometimes it's 30%. As of late, we receive lots of proposals, so it may go down a little bit. Our rate is higher than in the SBIR program. By the way, I'm not disclosing anything secret. This is publicly available information. So another incentive that if you are a budding academic entrepreneur to start with PFI, because you're going to learn so much, even by just writing the proposal, that it will make you more competitive in SBIR. Do not worry about the award rate. If you think about those things, you are not putting your energy into conceiving what we need, which is, I'm putting here on this slide, which is a true, I would say, pre-product development strategy. How do you translate an idea that you have in a dream product or service? What things do you have to address and discover, right? What technical hurdles, knowledge gaps, and how the technology plan addresses those. How the technology, how the applied research plan helps you develop more intellectual property. What is the role of the partner? How are you going to train that student or postdoc into a future innovation leader? Those are the things you need to worry about. Don't worry about how many proposals and how much money, etc. If you write a wonderful proposal, the probability you will get awarded is high.
Quick question back on the Icor funding from a budget perspective. Does that need to be all in 1 year, or should you distribute that across the 3-year duration?
It goes in just 1 year. So you should budget it in the first year. And we really encourage you to do Icor. In fact, we usually put it in the award letter that you're supposed to do Icor within the first year. And that again goes back to what I was talking about before, with some of our teams have gone through Icor and they've done pivots because of this. So we really want you to do that early, because you don't want to continue down a route that's not going to have the commercial potential that you think it is.
There's a question, is it possible, or can we still apply for PFI, RP, or TT?
Is the question, could you repeat the question, Crystal? I may have not understood.
The question is, and I can go back and ask for clarification, can we still apply for PFI, RP after TT? I assume you need, yeah.
So this is not like SBIR phase 1, phase 2, in which you do first a TT and then an RP. It's a type of track, if you want. The difference, as Katie said before, between RP and TT is that in the RP, the industrial partner is mandatory. Okay, so some people think that TT is earlier stage, RP is later stage, not necessarily. Although it's true that sometimes you may not have an industrial partner, and you want to do this self-contained TT project. So that's one thing. The other way of answering this question is, can I have more than one PFI? The answer is yes, but PFI is not a core program like in engineering, where, let's say in CMMI or CBET, where this is because they work in your area of expertise, that's where you always submit proposals one after the other. PFI is about helping you move these research or education results into a technology that will become a product. So if you bombard us with PFI proposals, the first question is, what is your commitment to commercialization? If you send us one for this, one for that, we're not going to believe you. Are you serious or not? We want to be more of a turnaround place, like in a old train station, right? We get your project, we train your student, we give you all what you need for 2 to 3 years, and then you succeed and you go away. Sometimes people apply more than once. It is okay, it's not prohibited. There is a little sentence in the solicitation that says that PIs are requested, not required, but requested to finish their current PFI award before they submit a second one. That's also a question more for you. If you become an awardee, then you will talk to us, the program directors, and they will give you advice. Maybe that leads us to a question in slide 14. By the way, you will be receiving this slide deck from our support team. and which is how many proposals can you submit? So your organization can submit as many TTs as they want. However, there's only one RP per deadline, one RP per institution per submission deadline. Important thing to know, if you belong to, let's say, a multi-campus university, and each one of those campuses functions as a separate funding center vis-a-vis NSF or other government agencies, each one of those campuses will be able to submit one RP. Okay, so let's say Texas Corpus Christi versus another campus at Texas, in the Texas system, or UC Berkeley versus UC Davis, okay, et cetera, et cetera. That's very important. The second thing is, because of this limit we are putting, many universities or organizations are creating like an internal competition. So you need, if you're interested in submitting an RP, contact your sponsor research office ASAP or your VP of research office and see if they're running a competition, how are they making the decision, etc. That's important. Now, when it comes to you as a person, you can submit up to 2 proposals, either 2 TTs or 1 TT or 1 RP. And there's a problem. You will always only get 1, that's for sure. And an organization may get 2, sometimes more, but normally we try to adjust it at 2 just because there are too many proposals and we need to be fair to everyone. Now, if you are a PI and you want to submit 2 proposals as PI, thinking that you're going to increase your chances, well, let me tell you, we are not like lottery here. What we're going to look is, well, if this person has time to write 2 proposals, what is their commitment to the true technology, right? Or are these 2 technologies, these 2 proposals, just a 2 applications of the same technology? Our focus will be on the core technology, not so much the application. So rather than, you're free to submit 2 proposals, not necessarily it will increase your chances of success because we're looking for quality, not quantity. And we're looking for commitment to the commercialization of that technology. Okay, so that was a long answer, but I wanted to address this issue. Thank you.
If a postdoc and a graduate student participate in the PFI, but they were not necessarily part of the national Icor, not necessarily interested in entrepreneurship, but they do need these graduate students for the research, does this diminish the chances of their success from the proposal?
Well, so what we do require is that there should be, there's a section on entrepreneurial training in the project, which we haven't discussed yet. And I think Jesus is going to go to the slide on this. And so the challenge, if you have students, grad students or postdocs that are not interested in entrepreneurship, this could be a problem for the training, because one of the big goals of this program is to get future entrepreneurs out of this. And we're not going to get future entrepreneurs necessarily from the faculty who are applying for this proposal because they already have a job, but we are likely going to get entrepreneurs out of the students and postdocs that are currently in their lab. And so this section here, the training future leaders in innovation and entrepreneurship, this is going to be a section that there really should be learning objectives and outcomes and an assessment plan for how you are going to get the graduate student and or postdoc that is on this project to develop their innovation and entrepreneurship skills. And so this section, a lot of times when people read this section, they think that this is going to be like a section in a career proposal where you are discussing a course that you're going to develop. That's not what we're aiming for here. What we're looking for is that you have a tailored plan for the specific students that are on the project that's going to describe what they're going to learn. And you should also, especially if you're an RP or if you're submitting an RP proposal, you should have integration of your industrial partner in this section, because again, the faculty member, maybe they do have experience in forming small businesses, but really the expertise in that area is going to come from your industrial partner. They're the ones who are going to be able to talk to the student about all of the aspects about commercializing technology that the faculty member doesn't No. And so we wanted you to leverage that industrial partnership, and that would be either through the industrial partner on the RP or the technology commercialization on the TT proposal. And hopefully that answered that question.
Great. There's a question about can a core facility of a university, which is a service provider and revenue generating, be considered the partner, right? So let me read this a little bit more carefully for you. If they are a revenue earning entity, it's a core facility, university, a service provider, can they be your commercialization partner?
No. Normally, I mean, can they get money out of the word? Absolutely, yes. Because normally they go under G6, the other, where, you know, many universities that have core facilities will apply a rate or ask for services, etc. So yeah, core facilities should be driving this program as well, and incentivize their PIs to participate in PFI. But you are not a third party at arm's length with the PI in the university, although you may be a revenue center for the university. In some cases, universities may have those under a separate entity. But at the end of the day, they all report, let's say, to the Board of Trustees or Board of Regents. That is not a commercialization partner because you are not in the business of making money and selling products. You are in the business of helping the academic community. There may be very rare cases where that facility is so independent that maybe in the business of developing products and services. But we are looking for true private market commercialization partners, right? It's a very neoliberal approach where we want the private sector to benefit from PFI through the work we fund at the university. So I hope this answered your question. But if you are in a very specific situation, please write to us, the program directors at pfi@nsf.gov. Share with us your situation, and we may be able to give you better advice.
So if you have a strong industry partner, I'm assuming this is something like a Fortune 500 with a really large market size, do you still need to include or describe their market as part of the commercialization strategy? If so, how much detail is needed?
Yeah, even if it doesn't matter who your industrial partner is, you still need to include all of the sections of the proposal that are described in the solicitation in the proposal. So whether you have a Fortune 500 company or a small business that is serving as your industrial partner, there should be a description, and we went over this previously on the slide, and you can get more details from the solicitation on exactly what to include, but there should be a discussion of what the market size is, the total addressable market, the serviceable addressable market, all of those different components that really describe what the commercial potential is of this project.
And is there any requirement, large or small, on the size of the industrial partner?
No, but we want an industrial partner who demonstrates a strategic interest in the commercial future of your technology. I'm gonna repeat that sentence because it's a mouthful. We want an industrial partner that demonstrates a strategic interest in the commercial future of your technology and who is able to move the technology to the marketplace after you've done your work. So what happens? Because it's difficult to find that type of company, you're going to bring a startup or a small business. Some small business actually are really, really good. But sometimes people bring a small business that is just a service provider, and they don't care about bringing things to market because they just want to care about providing services. And on top of that, because their SBI are available, eligible, they're going to get a little money from the award. They may even help you write the proposal. Those don't really fly because they need to demonstrate that they will take your technology and move it towards the marketplace. They will own it. They will sell it as a product or service. Another word of caution, you may be approached by SBIR mills, companies whose only purpose in life is to get money from the SBIR, SCTR programs in the government. And they will sell you heaven and tell you, oh my God, you will write a proposal for you, we're going to make you so much money, etc. We are not naive at NSF. We have access to information. We will determine whether that industrial partner meets, provides merit, or removes merit from your proposal. Okay, so we look at industrial partner as specifically as at the partnership, not so much the industrial partner, but as something that is catalytic, that we always tell the reviewers, 1 + 1 = 5 or equals 10. If you can do the project without the industrial partner, you may not get that PFIRP. The industrial partner brings something that is unique, and especially that ability to then move the product towards the marketplace, okay? So if you have a startup saying, oh, we are in the commercialization business because we're developing a product, that's not what we want. What we truly want is somebody who is in the commercial business, okay? All those BIR, CTR companies are eligible. They are not the most effective providers. We've tried these. They implode sometimes and the projects go nowhere. So I am being a bit unorthodox today because I want you to submit the most competitive proposal.
There's a question about who would be a good person to be the technology commercialization. Is that somebody like can that be another academic professor? Should it be somebody like a industry mentor from Icor? Who would you recommend for that?
It could be any of those individuals that you just mentioned. If you've already done Icor, I would recommend that as a first step, you contact your Icor mentor to see if they would be willing to serve as a technology commercialization expert. The technology commercialization expert, though, they can come from a lot of different places. So they could come from your technology transfer office at your institution. They could come from the business school at your institution. They could be your Icor mentor. They could be at in a company and they would be mentoring you. They could come from pretty much any place that you could think of, as long as they have an understanding of commercialization.
And what are their responsibilities?
So the technology commercialization expert, so this is for the TT. What they're going to do, they should be listed as either a co-PI or senior personnel on the proposal. That's one important thing. Sometimes the technology commercialization expert isn't clearly described in the proposal who they exactly are. So I like to stress that here so that the panel doesn't get confused as to who they are. Their responsibilities, so first off, they would be mentoring the student in the training plan for preparing them as a future entrepreneur. Or they should have some integration into that plan. They should also, depending on what your project is, they should also be providing some guidance on the technical plan and the commercialization plan that's in the proposal for you as the PI to be able to move this forward. And then if you have not done Icor yet, you don't necessarily need to have them as your Icor mentor going forward, but that does make it, it simplifies the process if they are both the technology commercialization expert and the Icor mentor, because then they're going to have a much deeper understanding of your particular project.
I would like to add a little bit to what Katie said. Let me start by saying that we read these proposals and we review them with common sense, meaning to say, if you tell us a beautiful story, we may or may not believe it, because we are really looking at the true project and about your thinking about moving this research towards technology development towards the marketplace. In that context, the role of the business advisor, technology commercialization expert, industrial mentor is critical. And let me tell you a little secret. We start our panels by asking the reviewers, hey, do you believe that this business advisor or for the TT or the industrial partner for the RP, do you think these guys read the proposal or helped read the proposal? And all of a sudden the reviewer said, they go blank and said, no, they didn't. And all of a sudden they say, ooh, it sounds like a story, but it's maybe not a project. What is the industry relevance of the project? How alone is the PI writing a proposal? Or is the PI or Copyi going out and finding potential partners? You see, this business advisor is a potential partner. Obviously, if you don't know anybody in industry, you could get a consultant. It's okay. You could even put them in the G3 line of the budget. It's okay. Sometimes you may just find your technology transfer office person, and it is okay. Because we are welcoming everybody. This is a Montessori for innovation. We want you to learn while you are with us. You don't need to be the expert before you come to us. But we want you to start looking for that business advisor. And that business advisor has to read your proposal, give you advice, and you need to learn how to take that advice. We see it in proposals where you get in your comfort zone, you just write science and science and science, and then you get surprised why PFI is not funding you. Let me tell you another secret. Most of the proposals that get at NSF are very competitive. But they don't get funded not because of the science. They don't get funded because of the lack of commercial strategy or the lack of accuracy on the industrial partnership or the lack of involvement of the technology commercialization expert or the industrial partner. Thank you.
Is there, sorry, a couple were coming in, so I was trying to read at the same time. What are you looking for? Is a viable revenue model required for PFI TT?
Okay, I'll start, and Katie, if you want to. No, it's not. We want to know where you're going, right? With this really early stage data that you have, that could become a future product or service. If you have done Icor, as Katie said, you will have better understanding of your customer segment, your customer pain, or call it the market, the target market segment you're trying to approach. So if you have some idea, it helps. But if you come saying, okay, our market segment is $1 billion and we're going to sell this for $20, etc., it may or may not be useful. What is useful to us at this stage is how you're going to move this really early stage stuff into a future product or service through technology development. That is sufficiently complicated. Focus on that rather than impress us with dollars and billions and these type of things, because, you know, it is what it is. We may believe it or not. Katie, you want to add something more serious or orthodox? Go ahead.
No, I think that was good. Yeah, so like I said before, we're not expecting that it's going to be as mature as a commercialization plan for SBIR because this is PFI proposals are generally earlier stage than SBIRs. But having some ideas to what the market is going to be, and then more importantly, addressing why it is that society needs this, those are really the things that we're looking for.
If there are multiple schools of thought from a single institution of higher education, so within a given university, if there are different schools of thought involved in prototype development and delivery, can multiple PFIs be submitted?
Yeah,
Well,
so there's a limit of one RP submitted per institution, but you can submit multiple TTs for the institution. The limit is on the PI. So the PI can only submit 2 proposals. And then the RP, of course, is limited to 1 per institution.
Hold on for a second. There's a couple of questions about patents that I wanted to get to for you. Is it for the patents, you talked about Apex, is the patent expense to get exclusive license from the university to commercialize the technology? Could you talk more about the patent expense that you mentioned?
Okay, so the Apex at this time is only for active PFI awardees, folks who got the grant already. The same thing that the intern or the goalie or the RAU supplement. It doesn't apply to you if you do not have a PFI award yet. But it's important that you know it exists because it's a true incentive for you to get this award and apply. As you know, there's a lot of competition, getting support from a technology transfer office, limited amount of money. They tend to support only a specific amount, a specific type of professor or number of professors. So if you apply for PFI and you are an awardee, then you can apply for the Apex, which is either reimbursement of previous patent expenses or a payment for future patent expenses from the moment you submitted invention disclosure, paying for a lawyer, paying USPTO fees, etc. So long you don't go PCT or foreign filings, we will support it. But again, that's not something you can put now in your proposal. It's something that we will fund if you apply for a PFI and you get awarded. It's called a supplement.
There are two other IP questions. One is, we are in the process of the office action for their patent, and is that an issue to apply for PFI for their middle office action?
Nope, there is no requirement for having a patent on your technology that's being submitted. There is a section, and that's very important because some of the areas that we fund, it doesn't make any sense to patent because, for instance, if you're developing an algorithm, it's not very typical in that area to patent your algorithm. So there's no requirement for having a patent. And so we do have a section on intellectual property. And what we want to see in that section is that what is it that you're going to do to protect your property? And that's a variety of things that you could use. So patents would definitely be one tool that you could use to protect your intellectual property. And then also we want to see what is the landscape of the intellectual property? So some initial type of freedom to operate analysis really demonstrates that you are thinking clearly about how you can commercialize this technology going forward. And that also kind of gets into the competitive landscape in the commercialization plan. So if you can kind of combine those two areas, the intellectual landscape and the competitive landscape, and discuss those and then really pinpoint how it is that your technology is going to solve a market need.
So just to really kind of confirm what you said, there was a question of, is it required that the PI has already disclosed to the University Tech Transfer Office? Your answer to say it's not required.
Yeah, it's not required.
And then what percentage of funded PFI TTs do you have an industry partner?
Well, we cannot disclose that information. And it's good that we do not disclose it because for an industrial partner to participate with you, they get very scared that just for the simple purpose of, simple fact that they put their name in a proposal with you, that the government is going to know what they're doing, it's going to become public, the reviewers copy, etc. So a few things. A, the intellectual property already contained in your proposal in the form of proprietary information, of confidential information, it is absolutely protected by the NSF merit review process. And you should tell that to your industrial partner. The government doesn't care. What you guys are doing. There's nobody here checking, okay? In case of a Freedom of Information Act action, well, proposals that have not been awarded are never disclosed to anyone. Proposals that are awarded, what's going to happen is that during the due diligence process, if you move towards award, we're going to ask you to mark every section of your proposal that is confidential, to mark it as such, and we will never disclose any information, even under a FOIA, without your prior concurrence. Okay, so what I'm trying to say, one more thing, reviewers are subject to confidentiality agreement and conflict of interest. So this NSF process that we have been running for 70 years has yielded to, let's say, more than 75% of the technology in this iPhone and other phones. And it works because we protect your intellectual property, okay? So I'm saying this because many of you will write a proposal that is very shallow. You're scared to protect your data, and then we cannot evaluate it. And then your proposal doesn't get funded. You need to disclose stuff, give us data, and then mark whatever is proprietary as proprietary, okay? This is very important. We normally don't speak about it, and your own fears will kill your proposal. You need to disclose stuff to us.
And there's another question about the commercialization expert. Do they have to be US based? Is there any requirement for that?
Yes, that's a great question. They do have to be, they have to have a headquarters in the US. So they could have headquarters also in another country, but they have to have a headquarter in the US. And so on the slide and in the solicitation, you can find more information about that, but they do have to have an office that's in the US. So if they're able to hire US citizens in the US, then they will satisfy this requirement. If they are based in another country and they have no offices in the US, then they're not going to qualify for this.
So that's the commercial, I'm sorry, I missed that. So that is the actual industrial partner, right? But
Yes.
what about the person who might be your
the technology commercialization expert. So that is a question that what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of punt this one and say, if you could provide us more information about exactly who this technology commercialization expert is and why they would be useful for the proposal, and then send us an email at pfi@nsf.gov, I think then we would be able to provide a better answer to this question. In general, the technology commercialization experts are usually pretty locally close to the team. So they're usually at the institution, so the university typically, that the team is submitting from, or they are at a company that is pretty close. And that ends up being kind of an advantage in terms of being able to advise the team, and in particular the graduate student or postdoc who's on the project.
There is something in addition to what Katie said, is that if you look at the general guidelines of NSF called PAPPG for proposal and award preparation. So it's a long word and I always get it wrong, PAPPG. What it says that we most often, if not almost always, fund proposals, and the money has to be spent in either the US continental or the territories. There are enough experts in this country that can help you in your project. You do not need to bring somebody from abroad, and most likely if you try to pay somebody from abroad, these limitations will apply. Katie just excused herself. She has a meeting. I'm going to be with you here with Crystal. Sorry about that, but anyway, keep on asking questions, please.
So is it detrimental to the PFI if the commercialization or industrial partner is a big company that is interested in technology and actually could have funded the research themselves?
No, it is not. Absolutely not. Those big companies, if you come with a big company, actually, it looks really good. It looks really good so long you demonstrate true interest. Let me give you a couple of examples. Once I had a PFIRP proposal that everybody loved in the panel, excellent reviews, everything was absolutely excellent. I started doing post-panel due diligence, and all of a sudden I learned that the PI had a buddy from graduate school working at the company. The company didn't know that this person was helping his buddy at the university. And the whole thing fell through because there was no real partnership. So this PI, unfortunately, tried to sell us the big logo from the big multinational, which always we pay attention to. Okay, so it's true we pay attention to that because they have capabilities, and for you to bring one of those, it means that you are doing your homework. But it doesn't mean that you can just submit a letter of commitment from them. We are going to really scrutinize your proposal to make sure that they are truly involved. And there are also other issues related to intellectual property. If they control already the whole intellectual property field, well, maybe you are too late for PFI. But in general, yes, we want capable companies. In the case of multinationals, it's okay so long they have legal representation here in the United States in the form of an American subsidiary.
If a group currently has a pending Icor proposal, do they still need to budget the $50K for the Icor in the PFI budget?
Yes, do it, because if you have a pending Icor proposal, it means you have been invited to the by Ruth Schumann's team to submit a proposal. So you have already passed the interview process, which means most likely you're going to get funded. But because we're the government, we need to go by the rules. Include the $50,000 because it may happen that you are not ready to undertake the training at the time, and then your proposal will be declined, and we are dealing with a true proposal. What you must say is that you have already applied, and you add that number. Maybe by the time we are processing your proposal, because it's moving towards award, then because we often ask you to resubmit the budget anyway, we'll say, okay, remove those $50,000. But disclosing that you are doing your Icor, that you have been invited to submit a proposal, etc., will look really good on you. So, but for diligence purpose, put those $50,000 in the budget.
And a follow-up to the question you had about internships. Can you put an internship plan in the PFIRP proposal without a budget and state that you will apply for the supplement for the internship after the award?
Yes. What we are looking in that section called Training Future Leaders of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And let me show you the slide 29 here. What we are looking is for we don't want you to just say, okay, I'm going to go to some school, high school, I'm going to teach them about entrepreneurship. We want some faster action. What we want you is to focus on your students and postdocs, those who are in your team, and tell us how you're going to transform them into innovators and entrepreneurs. So part of the intern could be part of it. But there are more things. That's why we are asking for learning objectives, learning outcomes, and an assessment plan. So you will say, hey, if they haven't done Icor, they're going to do Icor. Or maybe they're going to be mentored. They should be mentored by either your technology commercialization expert, if you are in TT, or the industrial mentor, if you are industrial partner, if you are in RP, and how. So all those things you will discuss in objectives, outcomes, and assessment. But do not tell us just, oh, Icor, or oh, intern, and check the box. Most importantly, because you may never receive an inter supplement, okay? That's a supplement, it's not an entitlement. So we need to know what you're going to do with the money you're asking for.
There are two related questions about PFI TT, Jose. One is, what can we write in the partnership section, as we don't yet have an industrial partner? And then by the same person, and do you need a letter of support from a potential industry partner for a PFI TT proposal? I
am muted. It's a very good question.
And it's for TT.
For TT. So there, thank you. The solicitation says that the section partnerships doesn't need to be addressed if you have a technology, if you're submitting a TT, okay? Because you don't have a partner. But sometimes people submit the TT with a partner. In that case, yeah, we will evaluate the partnership. So you should write that section, okay? So no worries if you submit TT and you have a partner, the section on partnership doesn't need to be addressed. There was a second portion to your question. Crystal.
Well, the question was, do you need a letter of support from a potential industry partner?
Yes. Yes. So letters of support, we need them whether you are on TT or RP. And you can submit up to 3. And yes, it would be a potential partner, vendor, not vendor in the sense that they sell to you, but that they would sell your project to others, customer, etc. Really, the letter of support doesn't say that you have a partner. What it says is that you have been talking to others and you are already gathering some interest from the marketplace about your technology or your future technology.
I think this is a similar question. It doesn't necessarily call out RP or TT, but if you have a company that approached you and expressed interest in your proposed project, but they wanted further development of your prototype before buying your company, can you cite them in your proposal as a potential industry partner?
Yeah. I don't want, sometimes when we get really into the weeds, I get a bit uncomfortable because I don't want to be too prescriptive. I think it is about, I like providing advice a bit more strategic. Tell us what you have. Tell us with whom you're partnering. If you're doing TT, who's your technology commercialization expert? If you're doing RP, who's your industrial partner? How are they working together with you closely? And how will they interact with you once and if you receive the award? I know I'm not answering your question, but I want you to think more strategically.
Do we need a project pitch or letter of intent before submission?
No.
So they can just submit directly without anything else?
Yes. No letter of intent, no letter of invitation, no permission. If you want some advice, you can submit the solicitation says that you can submit as executive summary. If you want to submit executive summary, 2 things, let me show you here. This is what we'd like to see in the executive summary. There's a page on our website that I can show you as well. It's called, it's the page resources. I mean the PFI website at NSF, you're gonna find it. And here at the bottom, we give you instructions how to submit an executive summary. It's the same thing I'm showing here. Again, it's not required. The advice we give you is only whether it fits or not the project. If we see something horrendous, obviously we will tell you, but we will not give you advice on how to write the proposal. So please do not send us your proposal and say, do you like it? Because we will not answer.
A clarification for the question about kind of the big company partner. You said it could be seen as a good sign, but also that you may be too late for PFI. Could you just talk about that a little bit more on kind of what you meant by and how that relates?
Yes. We've seen cases where, you see, the reason why PFI exists is to help you folks in the nonprofit and most commonly in academia to get your really early stage technologies either ready for licensing or ready for a startup company. Sometimes you have had a long-term relationship with a corporate sponsor research, corporate sponsor, a company that has given you money to do things, right? And it's almost like a service relationship. Or sometimes you are so scared that you are not like commercially relevant for PFI that you ask or you allow the industrial partner to dictate your project. And those projects sound like a service agreement, like if NSF was funding stuff for the company and we are not in the corporate welfare system here. Okay. Sometimes the intellectual property field is locked down by the company. They own everything. So your product is like maybe irrelevant. It's not that you cannot apply for a PFI. You should apply. But your challenge is to demonstrate that with PFI, you are generating new intellectual property, that you still have the freedom to license it to them or not. Because we are not working for them. We are empowering you to develop a technology that industrial partner hopefully will license or buy from you. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that we look at things realistically.
Can you talk a little bit about, there's a question, this is too big of a question for a webinar, Jesus, but the question was, what was your definition of innovation? But specifically then, the question is, how much should you talk about science, technology development in the proposal? Kind of what are you really looking for?
Okay, regarding the first question, if I ever retire from NSF, I may start a podcast of innovation. So wait a few decades, okay? First question answered. Second question. I'm going to answer in two ways. And forgive me, my answers are always very long. The first thing is, we look at this PFI journey as with an alpha and an omega. The alpha is, hey, I got funded by NSF some time ago. I did either an education project, an NSF project, a research project, and I have this data. And I believe I have a product in the future. That's your alpha. That is your the intellectual merit. I'm going to show you slide 23. Forgive me. So you see where I'm going. Okay, so you start with that section 2, from NSF basic research to addressing a market opportunity. You tell us the big picture, where you start, and then your dreams for a product or a service. Your dreams. You don't need to, I mean, you need to be as good as possible, and that's why we say do Icor if you can ahead of time. And then we will ask ourselves the question, well, if this is so good, why are they not selling it yet, right? And the answer will be, oh, well, there's all these things that they need to do. All these things that they need to do, those are the technical challenges and applied research plan that you must share with us, okay? It has to make sense. It's informed by the past, and it supports the commercial future. It also supports the generation of new intellectual property. That's why I told you that a proposal to PFI is really like a carpet with a narrative, one of those, Renaissance carpets that you can find in a museum. It's not like I'm writing this section and this section. Everything comes together, okay? The other thing is we are all, okay, I think we have no, we don't have that section here. Yeah, we have this section 3. 1 second. I think Katie spoke about this already, but basically what we want, we said you're going to describe gaps, then you're going to describe how you are going to address them, who does what. And yes, the point I wanted to make is that those of you who are academic professors, PIs, etc., will tend to stay in your comfort zone, which is just the right science. And, oh, I'm going to do this project, etc. And normally when you apply to the other programs at NSF, it's very open-ended. It's really philosophy. It's pushing the boundaries of knowledge. Here, what we are trying to do is teach you how to do pre-product development. So we need to know what you're doing. What are your success metrics? What are your research objectives? And for every objective, the tasks, okay? How are you going to do risk assessment? When do you know that the project should either pivot or be discontinued? That's why we ask about risk assessment and mitigation plan. Your research objectives, your research tasks, your success metrics, the milestone chart, the milestones in that milestone chart. How will you manage them? You see, so it's very prescriptive. It's another way of thinking. If you write in the same way that you write a classic NSF research proposal, you will not be awarded because it's all over the place. Thank you.
There's a question that talks about companies and academic institutions want to work with validating our product. So this is a PI asking this in their facilities. How do they work with those companies? Should we assign some budget for them to perform the validation experiment? Should we apply with them as co-PIs? Should we just ask them for letters of support or commitment?
Okay. So
and I assume that matters of whether or not they're a university or a company, right?
yeah, so you are entitled to use a vendor, right? The vendor sometimes is your internal core facility, and you put that under normally G6. If you use a vendor, which is a separate company, and that vendor is not your industrial partner, it's just, let's say, a prototyping shop, they go under G6. And ideally, in the justification for that budget line, in what we call, so the budget has two sections, right? The table that you fill with the numbers, and then a narrative. In that narrative for that line G6, you will describe the services that this company or institution will provide to you. Depending on the amount of money, we may ask you for more details should your proposal move towards award. But in general, yes, you can use vendors. You should use vendors. But don't use the vendors as partners. That's very important, okay? Some people make that mistake. You bring a lot of vendors, you call them partners, and you apply for RP, and that normally doesn't get funded. So don't do it.
And just to confirm, there's been a couple of questions, Jesus, on both the availability of the slides and the availability of this recording. Will they, the participants' slides sent to them as part of their registration, but I'm assuming the recording will be on our website, or will they also get access to that?
So you will be receiving, yes, we are recording this one. We are also recording next week. There is also a recording on the website. It's actually lasts 2 hours. And if you suffer from insomnia, I highly recommend it because I speak nonstop for 2 hours and people just cannot take it any longer. So yeah, you have at least 3 opportunities. We're going to send it to you, and it is on our website. The slides also will be available to you.
Great. I will say that I feel like most of the questions, but things can scroll in on chat that we've missed. If there are other questions out there that folks want to send in, actually, here you go. There's a follow-up question to the conversation we just had. 2 things. One, you talked about partners, i.e. vendors. Can these people be compensated for their validation studies?
Yes, absolutely. A vendor, not a partner, a vendor should be paid for. Otherwise, what type of work they're going to do for you? And that's under a services agreement.
Right.
You don't need to show us the service agreement. It's the university who will take care of it. A partner can only be compensated under a sub-award, and only if they are a small business who is eligible or that is eligible to the SBIR SCTR project. I can go into some technicalities there. Some of those small businesses may try to charge a gigantic overhead. And unless they can prove that it has been already negotiated with the federal government, we may reject it. So, and we will ask them either to remove it. I will ask you to either remove it or to add, to limit it to 10% de minimis. That, by the way, is federal law. It's not us. Okay, so be very attentive. So yes, you can give a sub-award to industrial partner if it's a small business. Be very attentive to the overhead because they are desperate for money. It's normal, they are small. If they ask for strange overhead or anything above 10%, ask them to provide to you evidence of a federally negotiated overhead rate and add that to your budget justification. It will just make it more strong. I mean, stronger.
A question about, so if somebody is an Icor team when applying for the PFI TT, should they only add the 2,000 additional budget covering the balance of with their 50,000 with their existing Icor award?
No. If you have already an Icor team, either proposal or award, then good news. The $250,000 from PFI TT or the $550,000 from PFI RP will go directly to your research and development. No need for that, okay? These are 2 different pots of money. What we have done is PFI is subsidizing Icor because we truly believe in it. Okay? So these are two different things. That's why you should apply for Icor as soon as possible, because then you have $50,000 from Icor, and then you can liberate all the monies from PFI towards your research and development.
And just confirming, there was a, and I think we answered this, but I want to make sure. To confirm, it is not required that they have disclosed anything to their university tech transfer office, right? That is not a requirement. And then also the question about the commercialization expert being US based. And I think we said it may not be required, but we understand sort of why that non-US based commercialization expert would be the right person for this proposal. Is that correct, Jesus?
Yes. So intellectual property, because we want to help you get started in future commercialization. If you do not have a invention disclosure, it's okay. Just let us know. Tell us. Then the intellectual property section of this part of the project description called from basic research to addressing market opportunity. Then the intellectual property section there is more about this is what we plan to do. We have done this research. We know who the players are. This is how we're going to leverage the applied research plan in PFI to generate more intellectual property. Oh, by the way, these are our plans. We plan to submit next month or etc. Right? Tell us what your plan and strategy is. But you don't need to have it. Now, obviously, if you already have a good intellectual property portfolio, you should also tell us because reviewers like to see it. But I want to reassure you that if you don't have intellectual property, doesn't mean you're not going to get funded. What we need is a plan to generate intellectual property. Okay. Regarding spending money abroad, PFI does not allow that. All the money has to be spent in the United States or its territories, which means that if you have a technology commercialization expert and she or he or they is abroad, most likely we will not allow payment.
And just can there be a co-PI on a PFI award?
Yeah, absolutely. That's having a Copyi means you have a partner, and that Copyi could be in your same institution. It could be the industrial partner. It could be the technology commercialization expert. It could be another professor at another university, etc. So yes, Copyis are welcome. Actually, a Copyi, if you do not have NSF lineage, could be the person who brings you the NSF lineage required for applying to PFI.
There was a question earlier about that. Can the industrial partners provide the lineage, Jesus?
No. No, because that is antithetical to the PFI program, right? We are not here to solve the problems of industry, like, hey, they need money for this. Not really. We're here to move the technology generated in the PFI, through NSF funding, previous NSF funding, research or education, and move it towards the marketplace. These questions you're asking, most likely the small business has an SBIR, may come from a small business, may have an SBIR or may have an Icor award. But no, that's not what we want. It comes from academia, goes towards the business, not the other way around. The solicitation has a list of all the projects or programs at NSF that do not convey lineage. They're very little list. Of the thousands of program grants we give, hundreds and hundreds of programs we have, there are only maybe 5, SBIR, GRFP, Icor site or Icor node, and PFI itself.
And just a quick budget question. These are like, PFI awards are like any sort of award that goes through your university sponsored projects office, right? It's overhead associated with it, and you need to figure out that the overhead allocation needs to be taken care of within your budget, correct?
Absolutely, depending on the type of activity. Some physical sciences have, compared to, let's say, education, whether you have like a lot of participant costs or a sub-award or these type of things, or consulting may affect your indirect costs. You have to work with your sponsor research office. You also have to educate them because they are not familiar with the fact that the overhead applied to the $50,000 of that go for Icor money is only 10%. They get all confused and they start writing emails and pushing back, etc. So you calculate the overhead rate, or they calculate the overhead rate on everything except those $50,000. Then you put $45,000 for Icor if you have to do it in line G6. And then you go back to line I believe, the indirect cost line, and you add 5,000. Okay, those 5,000 are separate, and most, for some reason, sponsor research offices refuse to do it, or they don't know, they don't understand it. Okay, so 5,000 for Icor of those 50,000 are added to the indirect cost line is only 10%. The rest is whatever the university has.
Quick question. If the commercialization of the technology requires FDA approval, does this need to be a proposal, e.g. secure a FDA consultant, or is it out of scope for PFI?
You were breaking a little bit, or I was maybe breaking a little bit. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah. If the creation of the technology requires FDA or regulatory approval, does this need to be, for example, should they secure an FDA consultant, or is this out of scope for PFI?
It's normally out of scope because neither us nor the Sbir program will fund regulatory work. That is too far away already for us, right? So if the purpose of the work is just to do the typical experiments that or essays that secure a regulatory filing like an IND or device exemption or NDA or whatever, no, it's not what we do. We are really years before that, okay? It's very rare. I mean, what you fund, you need to think about it strategically. The answer is no, we do not fund regulatory work or work done only for regulatory purposes. Like I need to run this type of preclinical essay so I can file my IND for a drug. We don't do that. But think about the regulatory framework in which you are working and what type of experiments you need to do now, so years from now, you have the right data. That is the way to think about it, okay?
With respect to Lineage, if a previous NSF award was somehow connected to the innovation or the technology for development, but it didn't lead to the concept of the innovation, can it considered as Lineage? How close does it?
Yeah, it has to be close, but we are open-minded. You need to be honest. Some people try to abuse this, and they say, "Oh, we work on fish, and now we have a proposal about cows." We may not. But if you have a proposal about cows and PFI is about hamburgers, maybe. So be transparent, be honest, and tell us how one thing leads to the other. We're going to look at the data. You need to give us the preliminary data, right? And then make your case for those challenges that have not been addressed, and knowledge gaps, etc. So tell us the truth, how one thing leads to the other. Unfortunately, I've seen people trying to abuse the system, and they have a project that is totally unrelated, and they keep on selling to us that, yeah, it's related, and as if we were, simple bureaucrats with no brain. Don't do that, please. But if you have doubts, send us an email at pfi@nsf.gov, and we'll try to help. Although we cannot help you on the content of the proposal, but we may be able to give you some general advice.
I think we're, I just sent that same note out. It tells folks.
Yeah.
I will say there may have been a couple here that seemed very, very specific. My advice to you all have been to send a question to pfi@nsf.gov, just because I think it's, your question may need a little bit more explanation than we're able to see in the 2-line chat. So if you didn't, if you have another question, or if we didn't get to all of your question, or if it's more specific, please do reach out and send them to pfi@nsf.gov, because I think we will be better able to answer them in that way.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Crystal, thank you. You saved the webinar. Thank you to our support team at IQ Solutions, and to all of you who are spending 2 hours with us. Again, this has been recorded. You will receive a link to it, and you will receive very soon the slides. Good luck with your submission. Don't forget the deadline, July 14th. Bye-bye.